Welcome to Brave Conversations, where real stories lead to brave moves. I'm Barbie Armenta, storyteller, speaker, realtor, and guide for women navigating midlife transitions. If you're standing at a crossroads, wondering what's next, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Brave Conversations. My girlfriends told me, he's just not that into you. You are wasting your time. And honestly, I understood where they were coming from. I had been through 2 marriages. I was raising 3 boys on my own, and the man I was falling for, slowly, carefully, and beautifully, had made a decision that none of us had quite seen before. He had surrendered his dating life to God, which sounds wonderful on a sermon. It felt a little more complicated in real life. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's take you back to where it started. I told you in the last episode about the Savannah house, the porch swing, the dormer windows, and the boys on their skateboards. The season where I bought a home on my own for the first time and discovered that I was stronger than I thought. I was not looking for a relationship. I want to say that clearly again. I'd learned enough about myself by then to know I needed to be whole before I could be with someone. I needed to know who I was outside of a marriage before I walked into another one. And God, in his timing, which is always perfectly inconvenient, brought Richard into my life anyway. Now I should tell you, Richard and I have actually written a book about this story. It's called The Right Combination: Finding Love in Life After Divorce. And if you want to get the full picture, the whole long, layered, complicated, beautiful story, that book is the place to go. What I want to do today is tell you the version that lives in me, the version that changed how I understood love and faith and what it means to truly be ready for someone. When I met Richard, something was different. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't performing. He was settled in a way that I hadn't encountered before. He had made a decision before we met to surrender everything in his life to God, his career, his future, his relationships, and that included his dating life. He was not having sex outside of marriage. For my girlfriends, that read as a red flag. He is not serious about you. He is holding back. You deserve a man who's all in. And I'll be honest, it brought up things in me, insecurities I hadn't named, questions about my own worth, wondering if I was enough, if I was even desirable, or if he even wanted this. But Richard would say, isn't this what women want? To be respected? And somewhere in that tension between my insecurity and his steadiness, God started working on me. Because here's the truth I had to face. I thought I was ready for a relationship, but I was not. Oh, I had done the work. I'd gone to counseling. I had read books. I had rebuilt my life. But there is a difference between being healed enough to function and whole enough to love well. Richard's patience wasn't rejection. It was an invitation to slow down, to trust differently, to stop measuring love by how fast it moved and start measuring by how steady it stood. God had a lot of work to do on me in that season, and he used Richard's, we'll say, stubbornness to do it. We dated for 4 years. 4 years. That is a long time by anyone's standards. Long enough for my sons to get to know him, long enough for his daughter to get to know us, long enough for us to see each other in the hard seasons, not just the good ones. And that length of time was intentional, especially for Richard. For me, nobody signs up for a 4-year plan. It was just one day at a time. What he knew for sure was that he had a very close relationship with his daughter. He never wanted to build something with someone else's family and find himself resenting my boys. He needed to truly know that he could love my sons. That didn't make me feel like a problem to be solved. It made me feel like someone who was being taken seriously. He was asking the right questions, even when the questions were hard, even when the timeline felt long. About 2 years in, after I'd tried to end it once, it became clear that we were moving toward something real. And that meant something needed to change. The Savannah house, the little house with the porch swing and all those sacred single mom years was no longer close to most of my life. Things had shifted. My world had moved. And holding on to that house started to feel like holding on to a chapter that was closing, and that was hard. But I want you to know that because I don't want to skip over it. Letting go of the Savannah house wasn't just a real estate transaction. It was grief. That house had held some of my bravest years. I had bought it alone, and I was proud of that. And it was exactly my style. The character, the charm, the front porch, everything. And selling it meant admitting that that season that I held was over. That's the thing about transitions, isn't it? Even the ones we choose, even the ones we want, still carry a little grief. Because moving forward always means leaving something behind. But I ended up renting a house in Lantana, Texas. A woman that I had worked with purchased it and then got transferred. So renting it to me and my boys worked out perfectly for both of us. And the Lantana house was beautiful. It was brand new, part of a gorgeous master planned community, new construction, which I love, watching the neighborhood take shape around you. But it didn't have the character of Savannah, and I missed that. The quirks, the charm, the uniqueness of the homes. And honestly, the boys and I missed our neighborhood. We missed our neighbors. We missed the pond and the walks and that feeling of being known in a place. The house was beautiful but temporary, and we all knew it. Moving schools again, the adjustment period, the here we go again feeling. But change is hard, even when it's leading somewhere good. So there I was in a beautiful house that didn't quite feel like home, trusting that God knew what he was doing, even when I couldn't see the whole picture. And in that season of waiting, of renting, being in between, Richard and I kept building something steady. And I think there's really something important in the Lantana season that I want to name for you. Because sometimes we are in the in-between place, not where we were and not yet where we're going, but just waiting. And waiting is hard for women that are used to making things happen. Women like me and women like you maybe. But the in-between is not wasted. The in-between is where we learn to trust. I was in a rental house that wasn't quite mine and in a relationship that was moving very slowly. And I was in a season where nothing felt settled. And I had to choose every day to believe that God's timing was better than mine. That is not a small thing. That is actually everything. What I know now, looking back, is that the Lantana season was a runway. It was a space between the life I had built on my own and the life that we were stepping into together. And you can't skip the runway. You actually need it. You need the distance to gain the speed to take off. But Richard and I were building trust. My boys were getting to know him. His daughter was getting to know us. We were figuring it out what together actually looked like. Slowly, imperfectly, honestly. And then we found a house. Not just any house, but our house. The one that would hold our next chapter. And that story, the finding of that house, and what it meant to say yes to that shared life is exactly where we're going next. Before I get there, I want to leave you with this. If you're in a season where love feels impossible, where the road behind you has been long and too hard, where you've stopped believing that something good could still be ahead, I want you to hear this clearly. Love is still possible. Not the naive, hopeful love of youth, though that's beautiful too, but the chosen love, the steady love, the love that looks at the full picture of your life, the boys, the divorces, the hard years, all of it, and says yes anyway. That love exists, and I'm living proof. If God can write that story for a twice-divorced woman with 3 boys and a porch swing in Savannah, he can write it for you too. So don't stop trusting. Don't stop believing. Your next chapter is still being written.